Back to the Round Two podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and I have a guest with me today who I have known for about going on 14 years now. So I am very honored to welcome Darrell Teat to the pod. Darrell and I met about 14 years ago. We both were going through the Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy. We met, started chatting. Part of the thing, or one of the main things about the academy, is that you get into teams and you work together to put a business plan together through the course of the program. So Darrell, myself, and another gentleman, we formed a team. And another fun fact is that Darrell and I quickly learned that we have the same birthday. So I was like, my Pisces brother, let's do this. So Darrell, welcome.
It is a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be here today with a longtime homie.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So, as you know, this podcast has kind of taken a little bit of a pivot where I'm interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who have entrepreneurship in their blood. I was telling you before we started recording, one of my favorite things about you is that when we first met and started becoming friends, you said to me, and said with conviction, Nikki, I'm going to be a CEO someday. And now we are, mid 40s. And you are a CEO, and I have loved watching your journey. So why don't you just talk to me a little bit about, college to now, and how did you make that decision and what's been going on?
Everything's been going on. It's been a long journey for sure. But before we get going, again, like I said before we started, thank you very much for thinking highly enough of me to bring me on and let me share a little bit about my story.
Absolutely.
So we'll go back to college. Graduated from Santa Clara in 2000, where I played men's basketball. This was post Steve Nash era. Everybody always says, "Oh, you played at Santa Clara? You played with Steve Nash?" I'm like, "No, unfortunately, I didn't."
Yeah.
But before playing at Santa Clara, I played for West Valley Junior College,
Okay.
community college down in Saratoga, which was basically a basketball factory,
Mm.
international factory. We were ranked number one through number three both years that I was there. Nationally, we brought in players from all over that were highly, highly skilled. That experience was actually one of the tipping points in my life when I knew I can compete at anything I decided to do.
Love that.
And, fast forward, graduate from Santa Clara, and actually rewind. Let's do a quick rewind. Also, West Valley was such a transformational point in my
Mm.
life, as that's where I met Lanisha, now Teat,
Oh, yeah.
my wife of
Awesome.
it'll be 23 years come
Wow.
next month in July. So I said, you know what? This is
Congratulations.
the GOAT. This is the GOAT year. So Michael Jordan's number was 23,
Yep.
born on the 23rd,
Yep.
right? Right? And our 23rd wedding anniversary, I'm like, hey, this is going to be the best year yet. It's
Oh
the
my
GOAT anniversary.
gosh.
So anyway, so we end up, we get married, which is an absolute blessing. Have two children, our daughter turns 21 next month. Our
Wow. Watch
son turns
out.
19. Absolutely. Absolutely. And dynamic as ever. Our son turns 19 next month. Daughter's going into her last year of college, and then eventually wants to go to graduate school. And then our son plays basketball for the University of Utah, and he's going into his sophomore year. So
That's
we had
awesome.
kids, raising family. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember my dad always asked me, as he knew that basketball was like my primary love and passion. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, hey, look, what happens if, just if, basketball is not in your future long
Sure.
term? I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll be a CEO.
I guess.
And
I
he was,
guess.
and he was, and and he's like, why a CEO? And the reason why it came so naturally to me is because I've been very fortunate to have people in my life that's always told me that you have natural leadership
Yeah.
gifts and abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to communicate, to relate to people, to set a vision. And I'm like, you know what? I guess I'll be a leader in something. And I've
Yeah.
always had leadership roles. whether it be high school. I was captain of the men's team, captain of my community college team, ended up being captain of Santa Clara as well. So I always knew I had these natural leadership gifts, but just really didn't know exactly where to plug them in, because I had all these dreams and goals that God had placed in my heart. And it wasn't until I had a series of jobs. Now, when I say a series of jobs, whether it be temp jobs where I was working, stocking computers, offloading computers from, big old trailers. I was a bail bondsman for Aladdin Bail Bonds in downtown Oakland, California. That's a whole nother podcast.
I was going to say, that's going to be another hour's worth at least.
That would be your top-rated podcast if I told you all those stories, right?
Wow.
I worked in staffing companies, and when I say companies, is companies plural. Worked for Xfinity, door-to-door sales. So I had a variety of jobs, and it wasn't until I went through something called the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program back in 2010, where it was the next transformational experience for my life. And there's a gentleman who's now still my number one mentor, Scott Syfax.
Oh yeah.
He saw something in me, and he was like, "You know what, D? You got it. You said you wanted to be a CEO, and as I've been watching you go through this program, you really do have it. Now there's some sharpening that you need to do, some skill sets you need to be able to acquire, but I think you can really reach the dreams and goals that you have." It's like, okay, great. So now what?
Right.
And he actually ended up hiring me.
Yep.
He hired me to go in. Yep.
Yeah.
He hired me to go into work at Nehemiah after I went through the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program and Nehemiah Real Estate Development, National CDFI, that lending across the country, in addition to the Leadership Development Program. And his goal, he said, "Look, I will teach you how to be a CEO. That's my promise to you." And my promise to him is that I would be the best employee he ever had.
Love it.
He taught me, he upheld his end of the bargain. You just have to ask him if I upheld mine.
I mean, I'm sure he would say you did.
I appreciate that, but he gives me a hard time all the time. But going through that experience,
though, right?
Absolutely, and going through that experience, I was able to gain the tools, number one, but more importantly, the experiences, and being allowed to take risk, mitigated risk, being exposed to how to go out to Wall Street and raise capital for real estate projects, understand lending, leading small teams, setting vision, to understand the intersection between politics and government relation and business. It was such an incredible 5-year journey that I had at Nehemiah, that I would not be where I am today if not for Scott creating the Emerging Leaders Program, pulling me in to work at the company, and then really just pouring into me and giving me that room to grow, to expand, but more importantly, the confidence to know that I can make it happen. So, and then, a couple jobs later, transitioned out of Nehemiah into my own consulting business. I had gained some relationships and some skills. People started asking me to do coaching for whatever reason, and I just started coaching. So next thing you know, I got Darrell Teat and Associates, executive coaching business, and now I have 13, 14 clients and that I've worked with in the public and the private sector. And then people started asking me to go in and do speeches to companies. I just did my first international company keynote speech, which was absolutely awesome, with some good feedback over the course, and that was back last month. And as I've gone through this journey, I've really become who I am, understand who I am, but more importantly, what my mission is. And we have a couple of philosophies. Number one is to inspire, not impress. So while my story is not like I just climbed right uphill, it was a lot of detours. It was a lot of dips in the entire journey. But one thing that I've learned is that telling your story will inspire someone else. And
Yeah.
when you truly aim to inspire rather than impress, people are naturally gravitates towards you and you actually get more opportunities. So that's our
Absolutely.
family life motto. The other personal is just help people take the lid off their life and their career.
Yeah.
So I look at every opportunity that I have to lead a company or go into a coaching engagement or a
Hmm.
speaking engagement. I have the opportunity to help people take off the lid. Oftentimes, it's a imaginary lid that they put on themselves,
Oh, it totally
whether it be
is.
personally or professionally. So
Totally is.
that's now I'm the CEO of Safety Center, blessing him an opportunity, nearly
Yeah.
doubled our revenue and profitability over the last 4 years, and looking forward to the next level.
I love it. I mean, you said so many great things along there. Let me back up and kind of let's dig a little deeper on some of them. I mean, first of all, I wanted to just comment a little bit on the sports background, right? Because I think that playing on a team sport, obviously you didn't just start playing basketball in college. You played as from a kid growing up, right? And you've just learned so much about how to get along with other people, how to work together towards a common goal, how like it isn't just you that's responsible for the win. It's the whole team and the effort and the working together and learning from your failures and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, right? I mean, it's so interesting when you see people who are really good at things. Um, One of them I personally have noticed is, when people are getting ready to speak in public, and if you're standing up and speaking in front of your company, right? You mentioned you did a keynote recently. Well, you didn't just walk up there and start talking, right? You probably practiced it, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 times before you went up and did that. And then I'm sure you absolutely nailed it. I'm sure you looked like you were cool as a cucumber, no issues, like you probably looked like you just walked up there and started talking. But the preparation that goes on behind the scenes, I think, is what so many people who aren't doing things like that don't even realize is happening. And then they just see somebody do something like that and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so good at that. And it's like, well, yeah, I practiced. And I think a lot of that gets ingrained in us when we do play sports as kids and then, into our teenage years. And whether or not you go on to play in college or if you play through high school, there's so much to be learned from that and that you can apply to the business world as you kind of grow and figure out which path they're going to take there.
When I say you hit it right on the head, you absolutely hit it right on the head. My son and I quite frequently talk about practicing in the dark.
Hmm.
And I heard something that it was going around TikTok or Instagram or
Huh.
something a while ago, and it was just talking about how Usain
Uh-huh.
Who the sprinter, and he
Yeah.
said, I trained 4 years to basically run 40 seconds,
Right. Exactly.
and the work that in basketball they say the work don't lie.
Hmm.
So the more that you put in the work and you practice your craft and you practice your craft and you just practice to become excellent,
Hmm.
there's absolutely no way that you ultimately don't have success.
Yeah. And it's
And and
dedicating. It's dedication. It's willpower, discipline. I mean, all of these things that, doing it when you don't want to, doing it when you don't feel good, doing it when you're having a bad day, but still going out and working towards that goal, if that really is your goal that's big enough and bold enough that you want to accomplish.
yeah, absolutely. And in addition to the hard work, what I've learned and when I leaned back over on my basketball days is working on the right things.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we can get extremely distracted
Oh my gosh.
on working on busy work. Look how
Hmm.
hard I'm working. Look how much I'm doing. Look how much, but we're not working on the right things.
Right.
And I would say for the first 8 to 9 years of my career, I really wasn't working on the right things. I
Hmm.
was just working to work
Hmm.
and to say how hard I worked. But then
Yeah.
I got really focused in on what are the skills and what are the resources I need to acquire in the relationships
Hmm.
in order to be able to have an impact, the highest impact. And then that's when my career started to take off.
Yeah.
Then overlaid that into the business strategy. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is challenging and difficult to run a business, but you mitigate the risk when you start working on the right things.
Absolutely. That's, yeah, 100%. It's so easy to be busy just being busy. But if you're not busy doing things, there's a guy that I follow, and he talks about, how it's so easy to wake up in the morning and write a list, and we all could write a list of probably 50 things that we should get done that day. But he kind of talks about how he buckets it out into groups where he's like, what are the three things on here that I absolutely must do today to, advance my business, to keep my family running, to do these different things? And then what are the next five that are like, hey, these would be great if I got it done, but it's not going to like push the needle that much further if I don't? And then what are the balance of the things that are essentially busy work that either
Yep.
can I put these in a spot where I'm getting them done in, a short amount of time, where it's like, okay, maybe that's like cleaning up your office or reorganizing something or doing something that, like, yes, you would like it done, but it's not gonna make you money, right? But
Yep.
so kind of those types of things. And I think that that's a important lesson to learn, in not only prioritization, but in advancing yourself as you want to get, closer to where you want to be. Um,
Absolutely.
One of the things that you said too about the coaching that you're doing, I am a big fan of coaching. Like, I have a sweet spot for young, guys and gals who are getting out of college and trying to like figure out what's going on with their next steps in sort of their career, or, if they're thinking about entrepreneurship. And then I also employ a life coach as well. And one of the things that I love about him is that he's able to just, it's like, here's this path that I'm walking on, and he's able to just sometimes shift my perspective just a little bit. And that like makes all of the difference. So I thought of that when you were talking about like helping people just like take that lid off, right? That maybe they put on themselves, no one else is putting it on them. And if you're able to make them see, hey, it's not sealed, you can just like slide it over a little bit and get out of there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you had articulated what your sweet spot was, one of the things that I've realized over the last 6 or 7 years of coaching is how important it is to be holistic in
Mm-hmm.
your evolution that allows for that lid to come off.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you look at it from a business perspective, it's like, hey, this isn't happening, or we're not moving the needle or progressing in this particular area. And it's really taking a pragmatic approach to what are the constraints
Mm-hmm.
that are not allowing for you to start to have some success in that area. And, when you look at it and you look from like the human body perspective, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I got lower back issues. No,
Yeah.
it's my lower back is the problem. But then you go to a stretch coach or you go to your chiropractor, and
Mm-hmm.
they're doing everything but touching your back
Yeah.
in order to relieve that pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why are you all around my hamstrings, and why are you in my
Yeah.
calves? Why are you in my feet? Because
Yes,
everything is so interconnected.
it is.
And whether it be life, whether it be business, looking at it from that holistic approach to
Mm-hmm.
really getting people to understand that they can't be too much out of balance,
Yeah.
even though business is a grind. Business, if you want it to be a grind, or business can be like the most uh, rewarding experience and challenging experience ever, is depending on what perspective you look at it. But
Definitely.
it's like, hey, we really need to be holistic in this approach so we can keep our energy, we can keep our
Mm-hmm.
enthusiasm, we can keep the right perspective in order to keep marching towards the vision.
Yep. I like that analogy, is toward like with using the body as an analogy, because it's so true. I mean, I've had extensive body work because of some disc issues in my lower back that I've dealt with for, God, now going on 13 years. And it's so true. Like, sometimes it's like, wait a minute, like there's a muscle in my calf that's gonna release something in my hip that's gonna make
Yep.
my back feel
Yep.
better. Like, what?
Yep.
you know? But it's so true. I mean, so many things are connected. I mean, I don't know about you, but there's all these different, you know, health and wellness is really, really big and in your face these days. And sleep has always been something that's, been talked about, like, oh, it's important to get a good night's sleep. But I feel like now it's even more, talked about and discussed. And I know for me now, like, sleep is my top priority. I'm like, oh, I got to get a good night's sleep. And when I wake up in the morning and I have that, I'm like, oh, I feel so good. I slept so great last night. And it's so funny to me where I'm like, when did this happen that sleep is my number one priority? But it's amazing how much, you know, focusing on, like you said, it's like the holistic just outlook, how you get a good night's sleep, then you can get a good workout, and then you're choosing good food to put in your body, and then you're more focused at your work, and then you're able to give in different ways because you're like taking care of all of this that then you can put into others and your work and business and all of that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you this. My life, I've had a lot of life-changing events, right?
Uh-huh.
The CPAP machine, the sleep apnea
Oh,
machine changed my life. Oh, it
really?
changed my
Okay.
life. So I used to snore like a wildebeest.
Oh, geez.
Okay. I don't know how my wife put up with it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm talking about flat out going to work.
Oh,
And I used to just
man.
wake up tired and she woke up tired, right?
I
Because
bet.
she was like, and then ultimately I started doing some more research and I don't know how it came. I think my dad told me, he was like, hey, if you don't take care of that, because he has a sleep apnea machine as well. He was like your heart starts to be impacted, your
Oh,
lifespan
wow.
starts to decrease, and all. I was like, that's all I needed to hear. I
Uh-huh.
was at the Kaiser Sleep Lab. They did the
Oh,
test.
wow.
They said absolutely, you way over here on the Richter scale.
Uh-huh. The Richter
There's like
scale.
low to moderate apnea. There's like you off the charts.
Oh
So
my
got the
God.
sleep apnea machine ever since I put it, start using it consistently,
Mm-hmm.
getting a better night's sleep. My energy level went through the roof. My
Wow.
effectiveness has went through the roof. And when I don't get a good night's sleep,
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely feel the impacts.
Mm-hmm.
My balance is a little bit off. I'm a little foggier,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes I'm searching for words. I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I searching for that word?
Yeah.
But it's all connected. So thinking
Uh-huh.
about a lack of a good night's sleep when you're getting ready to go do a speech or coach
Yeah.
someone who's really depending on you to bring it in
Mm-hmm.
order to help elevate them, or you're going into a strategy session where you're trying to identify some constraints to solve a problem for a client,
Mm-hmm.
and you can reverse engineer it back to, I didn't get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And then, why didn't I get a good night's sleep? You can reverse engineer it all the way back to whatever you were doing that prevented you from getting
Mm-hmm.
a good night's sleep. And you're like, well, those were stupid choices. Why did I do that?
I know, right? Right. Oh my gosh, I know my girlfriend and I went to an event last night that was in Napa, and on the event, details, it said it went from 6:30 to 10. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna go, and it was a fantastic event. It was all food related, and you ate with
Mm-hmm.
your hands, and it was meat based, and I mean it was wonderful. But we did there. They told you, they're like, there's a ton of food. They're like, you will be full. Um, and so we were ready to tap out about 9:15. Like we were like, I'm like, I can't physically put any more food in my body. Like I am stuffed to the brim. They had already started doing desserts and we'd had a couple, and we're like, okay, let's take off. So we got in the car and like put, my address in the map, and it said we were going to be back here by 10:15. And I was like, this is great. We're going to be home by 10:15. Like, awesome. We're going to get a good night's sleep tonight. And so it's so funny thinking back how, I see some of these kids sometimes and they're like getting ready to go out at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you function?
Look, our daughter and our son were both home for a couple weeks at the same time,
Uh-huh.
uh, late May, early June. And, college
Yeah.
kids, they stay up late. They're like, and I stayed up to about 11:30 a couple nights in a row. I
Uh-huh.
was done for. I'm talking about done for the whole
Yeah.
rest of the week. So I hear you loud and clear. They're like,
Yeah.
Dad, what's going on with you? I was like, you gonna learn one day. You'll learn
Right.
one day.
One day. So let's jump back in time a little bit. So when you decided to go through the Entrepreneurship Academy, how did you learn about it? What made you decide to go give it a go and join? What was that like for you?
Actually heard about it from Scott Syfax when I went
Hmm.
through the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, started working at Nehemiah, and he actually was one of the first and went through the first class of the
Okay.
Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy.
That was when it used to
And
be
he's
held
like,
in our living room
oh, back in the day.
back in the day. Yeah, I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
I think it started in 86, so I was 8 years old, and they used to host the sessions in our living room in Davis.
So awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Mhm.
And he was like, Darrell, I know you're finishing up grad school, but I think you really could use the lessons learned from the Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy to
Mhm.
kind of balance out your
Yeah.
education. And I'm like, I just went through this leadership program for a year. I'm 2 years. I'm coming on the tail of grad school, and now you're talking about this other at the same time. And I got 2 kids and a job.
Yeah.
Don't. He was like, but I said, you know what? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And it was a phenomenal experience. I still use the platform for developing efficient and effective business plans
I love
from the
that.
Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy. I now overlay that on everything that I do today. And
Mhm.
then also the awesome relationships
Yeah.
that were presented to us through it as well, that I still keep in contact with at least a half dozen of the speakers that came through. And
Mhm.
now I'm on the podcast with my homie.
Woo! I love it. I know that's so much it's such a great network of folks, and everybody is there still are so many people from like the early classes who are involved or who go back and talk or who sponsor a table at the showcase events, and it's a really cool program, and I think it's so exciting that it still is going strong in the area. I went to the most recent showcase and got to see what kinds of ideas they're having and are coming through, and then going through the Techstars program that I just got to go through and seeing like what kinds of ideas are coming through. I think that's like the biggest thing is that there's it's like this big world, and there's so many people, and you can be just sitting at dinner with somebody one night and have a conversation about, something that could turn into like a really big idea and could be like literally change the world.
Absolutely.
I love.
Absolutely. And the cool part about the Sacramento SEA was the caliber of speakers that
Mhm.
came through
Mhm.
that had real life, practical entrepreneur experience. Like they
Mhm.
were running their own companies.
Yeah.
Like right now, this is what we're doing. This is
Mhm.
how we're scaling, but how humble they were
Yeah.
and how humble they are to
Mhm.
somebody like me who was like, "Hey, I really like what you said. Could I buy you coffee?"
Totally.
Absolutely. Not one person turned me down.
Mhm.
Not one.
I believe you. I totally believe you. And it's funny because I think it really comes back to one of the reasons that my dad decided to start the academy, because when he was in grad school at Indiana University, he was working with a professor who hosted entrepreneur classes on the weekend or at night. It was one of the two. It could have been both. But essentially, at that was the 60s, right? There wasn't like there is now. You can major in entrepreneurship, right? There's entrepreneurship coming at you every which way. They didn't
Yeah.
have that back then. So he was taking like entrepreneurship classes, not on his course schedule. But one of the things that the professor told him was that entrepreneurs should replicate themselves. And so I think that has been proven so true by the amount of men and women who have gone through the academy, who are so comfortable and are so open to sharing their time, sharing their expertise, sharing their, hey, I failed like this and here's what I learned, moments with other aspiring entrepreneurs, because there is that drive of like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too, and like let's replicate ourselves.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I took from the Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy from Bob Gregoire
Hmm.
was
I actually saw him
working
a few weeks ago.
awesome guy. And he said something that really just kind of sparked my, I was like, oh, okay, that was new. And it was the concept of working in it versus on it. And
Ooh.
I had never been exposed to that philosophy before, and I
Hmm.
understood it,
Hmm.
from a theoretical perspective. But when we went to coffee, he was talking about the work in it versus on it,
Hmm.
and how his businesses either thrived or didn't
Hmm.
when he was working in it or on it. And he said, the
Interesting.
more that I worked on it, we were more successful. As soon as I started dipping in it more than I was working on it,
Hmm.
I can see it in the P&Ls. Like it was clear
Wow.
as day. And
Uh-huh.
those lagging indicators of today, you know what? For the last 3, 4, 5 months, I've been working in the business rather than on the business, and now that's why. And then he would level up, get back into the strategy, start working in his unique gifts,
Hmm.
and then 12, 6, 12, 18 months later, the finance, the performance of the company changed.
Hmm.
And he's like, as an entrepreneur and as a leader, and a visionary, you have to do whatever you can to fight against being in the business
Yeah.
more than on the business if
Hmm.
you want to be successful.
I love that. I'm gonna really think on that as over the next few days. That's given me, I've got some things that are turning in this head after hearing that. But it makes a lot of sense. It totally makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
I'm relating it a lot back to my last job at Skyslope. Like, when I was really like down in the weeds versus like, okay, like where are we going? What are we doing? How are we getting, closer to the goal line? Um, that's good. That's very, very good. So tell me more. So you've got your coaching business. You're the CEO of Safety Center. So you've been there now, what, about 4 years? So you joined in right before COVID or peak COVID?
Right before COVID.
Right before
Right,
COVID.
right before COVID. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we definitely have had that in common because that's when I started at Skyslope. I started January 6th, 2020. I was, all ready. I was like, 2020, it's going to be, such a great year. Let's go, new
Yep.
job, all these things to accomplish, getting there, getting to know everybody, understanding the business, all these different things. And then I distinctly remember March 13th, it was a Friday, going into the office. Every business unit leader, we all got pulled into a room, and our CEO was like, so yeah, we're not quite sure what's going on. We're going to proactively send everybody home for 2 weeks and just let everybody work remote while hopefully this figures itself out. And then we all know what happened from there. So it was definitely a crazy time to be a new leader at a company. So I can definitely relate to what you went through there.
It was interesting to say the least. That's
Yeah.
that's however, what I will tell you, there's always what they say, never waste a good crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
we really took that to heart because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how long it was going to be,
Totally.
until we could resume to back what normal is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, so this is what we're faced with. What's the opportunity right now?
Mm-hmm.
And once we shrunk down, which was a significant challenge
Mm-hmm.
because we had to balance the risk of we're going to shrink down to about 15 to 16 people.
Mm-hmm.
From at that time when I took over, we had a staff of full-time and part-time employees of about 95 or so.
Oh, wow.
So we went down to 15, and we looked at our business lines. We decided which ones we needed to just put a permanent pause on, which ones we needed to focus on right now that had the greatest opportunity to generate revenue, not only revenue but profitability within the climate that we knew which was right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the first to go virtual with a couple of our business lines. We were really able to slim down some of the fixed costs of the business, that which we still see the benefits of and the impacts of financially today. So we really took it as an opportunity to slim down, focus on the right opportunities, be first to market and take some risk, but also really identify the talent that we wanted to keep within the organization. Sure. So I'm talking about, we were like the Avengers, and we were making it happen. And the company would not be where it's at today if, with the help of the board, the phenomenal 14 other people that worked through that transition, to just say, you know what, we have no idea what's going to happen. We can't control what we can't control, but we know what we can control. Yeah. And let's focus on working on the right things. Let's have fun while we're doing it. And then let's be a blessing to all of our customers. And out of that philosophy and thought process, we found that customer service absolutely sucked during the pandemic. When I say we were like, service everywhere is absolutely terrible. And some of it continues, right? But we decided we're going to be, what's the opposite of, service that's terrible? I love the word awesome. We're like, let's just be awesome. Yeah. So we created this moniker. We're going to create awesome real-time experiences for our customers and our colleagues. And if we focus on creating those awesome real-time experiences for our customer and colleagues, we're going to have fun while we're doing it. Clients are going to love us. We'll get repeat clients. Lifetime value of the client will continue on. We'll get referrals. Yeah. And that organic referral started to build through the pandemic. And the company had never been able to give bonuses before. We started giving bonuses during the pandemic. Oh, wow. That's because wonderful. Of the fact that we were able to get ahead of the curve. So the CARE philosophy, CARE, create amazing real-time experiences, or create awesome real-time experiences. If we say whatever the A means to you, sure, is definitely something that continues on today. And also the Teat family uses that as well. So every person that we interact with, let's just create an awesome real-time experience for them. That's wonderful. I love that, because, it is true. It's funny. Isn't it interesting going in and running a business that you didn't start yourself? Because you're coming in, you're learning all about what's been going on. You're learning about all of the people on the team. You're trying to understand, like, why are they happy? Why are they not happy? What areas do they feel could be improved? What ideas do they have for improvement? Trying to balance all of those different things. It's such an interesting experience. And, as I was going through it, prior to that COVID day where everything changed, it was so interesting to me, because I was having conversations with everybody on the team, and I was hearing a lot of, pain points, a lot of struggles, a lot of things that they all didn't like and wanted to change. But then as I was going through and saying, well, like, what about this, or what about that, or maybe could we try this instead, because you guys have all kind of said that this process sucks, or you don't like it, or this could be improved upon. And then it's like, oh, well, no, we can't do it like that. Oh, okay, well, why not? Like, oh, we tried that before. Okay, well, that was then, this is now. So it's so interesting when you start giving people ideas to improve, and then when they've said they want that, but then it's like, oh no, change? What? Change can be scary. So I think for us, I know that we used that COVID shutdown, and then subsequent, we had to downsize as a company as well. Use that as kind of just like a big reset button, where, I just remember having a conversation with the team that was left, after, and I said, look, guys, we all should be very thankful to still have a job here. And I know I'm very thankful to still have this job here, because I got hired to accomplish some big things, and I still want to accomplish them. So we're going to have to make some changes, and everybody's going to need to be on board, because we got to just hit the ground running with the team that we've got left. So
But like I can totally relate to, being scrappy and, trying to have some fun. And that was one thing that I, had to do as well, is like implement like, hey, we can have fun too. We can go to, we can celebrate the wins. We can, we can go to do something fun as a team. We can go to a happy hour. We can, chat with one another, and be positive about what it is that we're
Yep.
doing. So yeah, you mentioned something about, the lack of positive experiences, or that, service in
Yep.
general, right? One of the things, and I think I recognize this even before COVID, is that like service just got, people kind of became robots. Like you would go to a coffee shop and order a coffee, and you'd walk up and someone say, "What can I get you?" And I was always like, "Hi, how are you?" And I still do this to this day. "Hi, how are you? How's your day going?" And then it's like they kind of like shake out of it, like, "Oh, like, yeah, I'm good. Like, how are you?" And,
Yep.
"Oh, great. Here's what I'd like to order." Or just kind of getting people talking. It's like it makes me sad that like that just quick 20-30 second interaction has like fallen by the wayside in a lot of our day-to-day, comings and goings, when it can really brighten your day just to have somebody ask you how you're doing.
Absolutely. And I I nerd out on YouTube University
Uh-huh.
and read books and everything else, but just the science of gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
selfishly helping other people experience a bright spot in their day,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes you feel better.
Oh,
Like is
definitely.
this selfishly for
Mm-hmm.
me to help someone else have an awesome real-time experience,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mutual benefit.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I look for ways to do that?
Right. Right.
Like inherently we all have this, some selfish tendencies,
Of
and I
course.
want to feel good. I
Yeah.
want to be happy.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
unapologetically, I want to
I'm
feel
with
good. I want to
you.
be happy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to look for ways to add value to people and create those experiences. And then you talk about just the robotic nature of service.
Mm-hmm.
While, there's some stores and establishments right now, and to be, remain nameless, you can walk in and it's going to be a terrible experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like you already know,
Yeah.
but you got to just go in and bite the bullet and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's places like, there's a reason why Chick-fil-A
Mm-hmm.
far supersedes
Yeah.
and so far ahead of the competition. All they do is sell chicken. Now, it's pretty good chicken.
Yeah.
Okay? It's pretty good chicken. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what they put in that chicken, but
It's funny you say that. I actually saw a TikTok video last night that was talking about how there are things that they put in their chicken when, like, if you're eating chicken, you would hope that the main ingredient is chicken.
yeah,
But I'm sure,
yeah,
with all the breading and all that. But there are
yeah.
definitely some things in there where you're like, should that be in there? But it's also like, well, it sure tastes good. So,
It is fire. Okay. So it now, but there's a reason
hmm
why people will spend more on their chicken,
hmm
a lot more
yeah.
than anywhere else,
hmm
right? And then you have places like In-N-Out. There's a reason
Yeah.
why In-N-Out's line
hmm
is
So long.
always out around the corner,
Yeah.
right? Cities, think about this. Cities have, for Chick-fil-A and for In-N-Out,
hmm
cities have to figure out strategies just to accommodate the traffic flow,
Absolutely they
and
do. Yeah.
because of the volume that they know that they will create,
Yeah.
right? So like there's levels to this, but there's really the cheat code is just service.
It
When
is.
you go to a hotel, when you go to a restaurant, if you go even to the Target up the street from here,
hmm
it's a different experience
Yeah.
than the Target in other places, to remain nameless.
Absolutely.
But when you walk in, they're like, "Hey, how you doing?
hmm
Anything in particular you're looking for?" Why, yes, there is.
Yes.
Right? And and they're like, "Oh, you know what? That's a new one. Let me find somebody that can help you." Boom,
hmm
boom. And they get you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Right? So service is the cheat code, and it doesn't matter what business you're in. Yeah, I could talk about that all day, every day.
Right, right. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about this? So you obviously are a leader. You obviously have entrepreneurship in your blood. I mean, you still have your coaching business while you're running another business. So what do you see in your future? Do you see yourself ever going off and, creating something from scratch? Do you see yourself seeing just kind of how, like you said, like when you're working on the business and when you're working in a, how can I, be of service? How can I, give you a good experience when you're just working from that mindset and putting that energy out in the world, that like the next opportunity that you're looking for will kind of come your way because you're doing all the right things and all the things? Or what is it that you kind of foresee over the next like 10 to 15 years?
Next 10 to 15 years, I'll be running a company
Mm-hmm.
that I have equity ownership in,
Mm-hmm.
that blends my gifts and my talents together in order to help be a blessing to other companies. I have
Mm-hmm.
a big, hairy, audacious goal
Uh-huh.
to help 10,000 companies along their path to 50 million in revenue.
Okay.
Don't know how I'm going to do it yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I know it's going to take a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take some automation, and some tech platforms in order to
Absolutely.
do it, and it's going to take a whole lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And through my recruiting background, through the business experience that I've been able to gain, not only running companies, advising companies and people,
Mm-hmm.
I've been fortunate to been voted onto a corporate board of a national environmental science company called Environmental Science Associates,
Mm-hmm.
which they do great work. If
Yeah.
anybody needs environmental consulting, hit up Environmental Science Associates.
Hey, nice
Uh,
plug.
that's what I'm here for.
I
That's what
love
I'm
it.
here for. But I will definitely be running an organization such as that, so that we actually help entrepreneurs and business owners operate in their unique gifts and talents,
Mm-hmm.
and really help them find success. So I'll be doing that. I'll also probably be on another corporate board,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a mutually beneficial relationship, I believe, where I add value and I also receive value, not just in the forms of compensation, but being around other
Network.
people at the
Yeah.
boardroom and working with these companies and understanding what works and what doesn't, and seeing their tools and their platforms, and to be able to use those concepts to help other companies as well,
Mm-hmm.
that I run or what have you. It's a awesome. I just love business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be doing that. 10 to 15 years. I'll still be running around after uh, my kids, our kids, with my wife.
Yeah.
Who knows what they'll be doing, but they both, we've been developing them to be entrepreneurs,
Oh,
and
okay.
to understand that you can take the path that I initially took
Mm-hmm.
to help build someone else's dream, or you can build your own dream. Where do you
Yeah.
want to spend your time?
Mm-hmm.
And to be more not risk adverse, but take more risk,
Mm-hmm.
and to actually start to pinpoint, how can I mitigate risk in order for me to be successful, and doing something that you really are gifted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hopefully help our kids run in their businesses. My wife is super wicked smart when it comes to marketing,
Okay.
and customer journey and things of that sort. So family businesses in the future, and then even beyond that, I'll be well into my 80s, doing the run walk marathons.
There you
I'm
go.
already got my run walk. I got my run walk thing down. My
Perfect.
daughter and I, we getting ready.
I love that. That's so fun. Yeah, gotta
What
keep
what
moving.
what does what does the future look like for you?
I
10
mean,
to 15 years from now, when we back on the pod.
I know, I have similar aspirations as far as, going further along this like entrepreneur path. I do foresee having my own, like starting my own business, like a real business, like something in technology, or I actually have a product idea that, it's funny when you start really putting yourself in like a business mindset and, obviously just coming off the heels of this Techstars program where I was surrounded by, 24 businesses through the course of the 3 months and learning what everybody's doing and why they're doing it. And then the process that we all went through to really understand and determine like, hey, do we have a product market fit with like this idea that we have? Is it something that people would be willing to pay for because it's like such a massive pain that they deal with in their business and they're like, oh my God, I'll pay you to solve this for me. And so
Yeah.
I've started just seeing everything through that lens now. And so even like little things where I'm like, oh, this is bothering me. And then I'm like, oh, well, how could I do that better? Like, is there like, do I have a way that I could solve this for myself better? And then if I could solve it for myself, like, would other people want that too? It's just so interesting how that kind of works. So definitely see something like that. I, from I'm trying to organize my life right now, whereas, okay, what are all of my strengths, which I'm pretty clear on. Obviously like I'm skilled in leadership. I really love doing this podcast, so I'm going to continue doing this and see if I'm fine with it being my passion project, but were it to turn into something bigger, I would also be totally comfortable with that because I love sitting and talking with people and learning about their lives and their journeys and what makes them tick and why they, think this way or that way. But also like, what are things that I'm just naturally passionate about and how can I turn those into something where I can add value, right? Like I love travel, I love food, those types of things, what opportunities are out there or what opportunities could I create for myself?
So awesome. So awesome. Hey, make it happen as usual. And I do hope, and we'll keep it in prayer that this podcast blows up.
Yeah.
Because you're really good at it, and I can tell that you have a genuine interest in sharing the stories of entrepreneurs and people who have battled through adversity in order to really help inspire those that watch it. So you got a pure motive with it, and I'm sure it's going to be successful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, whether it's a story of, overcoming something that the person never saw coming, whether it's someone who decided to make a massive life change because they didn't like the path that their life was on and they knew that the change was going to be hard, but they got on the other side and then are a completely different person. And then now with all of these different entrepreneurship stories and different people that I've been so fortunate to be connected with and getting to talk with them. And so I'm excited because I've got some of my Techstars fam lined up to come and chat. So that will be, a kind of in cool spot for them because some of them are just starting to grow these businesses. And man, some of these ideas are so cool and I really believe can change the world. So it's exciting to be on like the cutting edge or like the steps of some of these things. Because I'm like, I know this product is everyone's gonna have this app or everyone's gonna have this product in their life at some point. So all right, so last question. What is what would be one piece of advice that you would give someone who's like an aspiring entrepreneur or someone who is, maybe has these big dreams and isn't quite sure how to get there, but knows that that's where they want to go?
That's a very good, very, very good question. And I would say to that person, don't play small.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's in you, you have to figure out a way to birth it and get it out of you. And there will be so many people who want you to remain or stay in the average category and not ascend to that 1%, 2%, 3%, that exceptional category because it's comfortable for them to have you around. And oftentimes what happens is just that gravitational pull of the people in your circle, whether it be friends, whether it be family, whatever it might, co-workers, you often, you have this big idea or this big personality or this bigger aura about yourself that you can go do something amazing, but you play small. You play below the rim.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would say is keep playing above the rim. Never, ever diminish or shrink down so that your light doesn't eclipse the people around you, because that's how God made you to be you.
I love. Thank you for saying that and for that wisdom. I think it's so important because it is so true. If somebody is, comfortable where they're at and they see you striving and striving and striving, sometimes those people do want to like bring you back down because they're comfortable there and they're comfortable with you there with them. I kind of almost, I don't want to say laugh because it's not something that I'm like flippant about, but I do find it interesting that as I continue on my journey where I'm constantly working on myself, constantly trying to challenge myself to be better and in all aspects of my life, I feel like my circle does shrink from time to time because just people are at different places at different times in life, and it's totally okay. It's not like anything negative, but it's more, there's that saying like that you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yep.
And I really
That's
take
real.
that to heart, and I'm very particular about where I spend my time because I want to be pushed. I want to be challenged. I want to have conversations about life and ideas and what's, going on. I don't want to be, sitting at that surface level and chit-chatting about things that don't really matter or that aren't going to like help make my evolution to the best woman I can be, happen. So
I hear you. Hey, I hear you loud and clear.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for the conversation. It's been lovely, of course.
Likewise.
And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 10 to 15 for you because already you've accomplished what you told me you were going to do back in 2010. So I know more big things are on the horizon for you, Darrell.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
To be part of the pod.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to coming back in the near future.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You do the same.